boot camps out there are a symptom of we need lots of designers, so that there's a lot of demand from companies. Everybody graduates, everybody gets a certificate. It's great theory, doesn't work in real life.
Christopher Nguyen went from having zero experience to becoming the head of design in just 4 years. In 2020, he quit. The job he once dreamed of no longer aligned with his values. He had an intrinsic desire to help other designers succeed. After working with hundreds of designers, he realized that most are, in some way, self-taught.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is really, it's extortionate. Like, if you've ever looked at these boot camps, they go up to like 15 grand. The third thing is they have the audacity to guarantee a designer a job after going through their course. And if you read the terms and conditions, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Can you tell me a little bit about your background? You're a top voice in UX design. How did you get here and where are you going?
I'm Chris, a business graduate and a self-taught designer. I got into tech since 2014, not a designer then, but fell into the design field. And I've been doing it since 2015. My previous role was in 2020, where I was the head of design, but I left that company and now exploring my entrepreneurship journey. I'm building this thing called UX Playbook. It's an educational platform for designers. We offer playbooks, courses, and coaching. That's what I'm working on and thinking about at the moment.
Okay, so what got you interested in design?
Yeah, a lot of things actually. So I would consider myself as a creative. I loved drawing as a kid. I love graphic design, I love graffiti. I think that kind of drew me to design in general, the whole field. My sister's also a fashion designer. My dad's a great drawer. So that the visual aspect probably captured me.
You never had a choice.
Yeah, I guess not. But I did, study business. So I thought like that was the path. However, I just wanted to do something in tech that wasn't as boring as marketing. Frankly, I mean, it's not boring now that I'm doing it, but I wanted to do something different, and I love software. So as I designed websites as a hobby for a friend, I sort of fell down this rabbit hole of like, okay, well, how do you design a good website? And when I got hired for my first design role, I didn't even know what UX design was or product design. But I got hired anyway, and the first week I was there until 12 a.m., 1 a.m. every night. Nobody asked me to, but I just was fascinated about building this Android app, which was my first sort of task in the company. And yeah, I just love how the psychology of users, of humans, what you could do with technology, right? I think those two things merge really nicely in the field that I'm in.
I like the intersection of art and science in photography and in architecture. Do you see that as well in your industry?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the stuff we do, even though we're like, okay, we should test our hypotheses and we have all these measurements and metrics, I think there is a really healthy side that we always kind of neglect, which is the art side. I think the best products are the ones that feel good, right? There's this feeling to it, even if it's digital. And the best products are also opinionated, like pieces of art, right? Not that, A is better than B, but the why behind, why the artist made it. So yes, there's definitely a really nice balance.
So what caused you to, what was the desire with starting this course or writing this book? What are institutions getting wrong about this? Because I see there's many boot camps, there's many certificates, or perhaps even diplomas that touch on this. So what are you getting that they're not? Or what was the pain point that you saw?
I think a lot of the boot camps out there are a symptom of we need lots of designers, so that there's a lot of demand from companies. So the supply came is like, okay, boot camps are here. But I think majority of the boot camps are quite dated, and they teach design in a way that has to be taught that way because it's a curriculum. So they just need to get people to pass, right? I mean, there's no pass or fail. Everybody graduates, everybody gets a certificate. You just pay the money, right? And also the fact that it's not really real world driven in terms of constraints, development, CEOs, product managers, timelines, all this stuff is just non-existent. So it's the happy path of design. It's great theory, doesn't work in real life. So that's the first thing. The second thing is really, it's extortionate. Like if you've ever looked at these boot camps, they go up to like 15 grand, and that could just be one weekend, right? Or it could be a 6 months program, right? And then the third thing is they have the audacity to guarantee a designer a job after going through their course, and because guarantees
Just
are
not in
great.
design.
Exactly. And if you read the terms and condition, it's absolutely ridiculous. There's a lot of things that you need to fulfill in order to get that, like, get your money back. So I just think that it's just really, really messy. And I wanted to do something that really, I wanted to build UX Playbook in a way that encourages designers to get outside and design, right? Like you could use the guides, you could read the thing, but the actual learning comes from doing the work. And that's why there is no like full-on boot camp or anything like that. I mean, you could think about an internship model just works way better when you're in real world situations. Unfortunately, I'm not doing that, but something that encourages you like step by steps, but really is up to you to learn the nuance of doing the actual work. So that's really how UX Playbook came about. Actually, it was an experiment, but I digress.
Does AI pose a threat? Can you just plop in a prompt and have it do a lot of what UX designers will be asked to do? Or do you think there's plenty of room to grow the pie?
Like if you don't know anything about UX, you can absolutely put in a prompt and the software will churn out an interface that you're familiar with, right? Search box, thumbnails, scrolling, what have you. Absolutely. But what AI won't get is who's going to interact with it, right? Even if you put the prompts in, the context of use. So for example, like Uber, where someone isn't sitting there and playing with it all day. No, they've got 30 seconds to grab a car and then jump in, and they're probably walking somewhere. So the context of use, I don't think AI will completely nail it. And there's also a lot of other nuances to products as well, like business decisions, strategic decisions, technical constraints. So absolutely, it could generate you at the moment pretty visuals, but does it actually work if it's all connected together? I don't think so at the moment.
What makes bad design and what makes good design? Like, are you able to kind of give us a high level kind of litmus test for each?
I think a bad design is one that personally, right, that I'll feel frustrated to use it. I don't know how to go back. I can't undo what I've just done. I've made an error. Like a product that just pisses me off, right? I have no idea what's going on, and it just makes me frustrated. Like on many levels, it's like pleasurable to use, right? But not always. So depending on if it's a utility or not, but something like easy to use in terms of, can I do the thing I do, not really thinking about it, right? Like pay my bills, for example, like really, really quickly, or order an Uber. So I think there's so much to this, and I think, again, it could be quite subjective, as you mentioned earlier. So it's really dependent on the eyes of the person, the context of use, their level of how well used they are with technology. So there's a lot of variables in it. I think Dieter Ram has 10 principles of good design, which I'm not going to quote all now, but he is someone that's put, these principles together. So folks, if you're interested, you should go check that out.
I'd like to talk about the creative process a little bit. It can apply to just about anything, I'm sure. But do you face kind of like a designer's block at times? And if so, like, what are some of your tactics for getting around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I always face designer blocks, actually. And I find myself now, as I'm working on this business, even though it's helping designers, I'm not designing in the traditional sense, you would say. I'm actually solving business problems, conversion problems, marketing problems, but I do it through a lens of design, right? How I typically get out of it, if I do face a block, is I'll work on something else, right? I divert my attention, because sometimes, shower thoughts or whatever it is could come to you, or I get physical. What do I mean? I take a physical notepad out, post-it note, and I just go crazy in terms of how I could solve a specific problem, right? Because oftentimes the first solution or the first idea that comes to our head is not the best one. We haven't had a rigorous way to filter it out and get all the stuff that's, could be in the back, but a lot better. So I like to do that too. I like thinking about things visually. So not just, but having the ability to zoom out and to see like the journey or the map and the bigger picture of, let's just say, if you're analyzing your business, it's like, okay, well, what are you analyzing, right? Or if you're trying to solve a specific problem, like I need to fix my conversion, then you have to actually step back and actually understand the problem and understand all the connecting things related to conversion. So I think like visually mapping that out. I think the last one is just workshopping these ideas with other people is always different perspectives, and they might see something that you're not seeing, and they might be asking different questions like, why isn't it this easy, that you've just never thought of because you're so deep in it. So I like to bring folks into the room and say, hey, I'm trying to fix my conversion. These are the things I tried. What do you recommend? And then we just kind of like brainstorm as well, but collaboratively.
Do you think there can be too many designers?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. I think everybody has the capacity to design, because if it really depends how you classify design. I think it's kind of like a way of thinking, a way of solving problems. It's like a philosophy in some sense. And yeah, like I get pissed off when people say prompt engineering. It could be prompt design, right? Like, why isn't it prompt design? And I think engineering just kind of takes precedent over the software world. For me, engineers can be designers, product people can be designers, CEOs can be designers.
It's interesting. There is a visual language, like you mentioned, thinking versus feeling, and each serving a purpose. I like digesting my information a few different ways. So I still subscribe to magazines, just because I find that even though we can do great things on the screen, the layout and the constraints in the print form is different, and the way that I read it is different, and it's like a relationship, And then of course in the regions as well. I lived for some time in Asia, particularly Japan, and the design there is very different than the West. And there's points of similarity and then points of departure. And sometimes it can actually be a little bit disorientating when you see something you think you understand. It's like, oh yeah, this is what I know. And then all of a sudden there's like this change, and it's just like you're in a totally different water than you expected. And then like for marketing and product design, I think Japan is way up there, some of the best. And then I'm a little bit, I don't go to the website so much these days, but for a while, I think their websites were maybe left something to be desired in terms of like ease of navigation, but it's a difference. Like they preferred a lot of information, whereas in my experience with Western style, particularly website design, was a little bit more airy, like a little bit more like a lot of empty space, which is really surprising because a lot of Japanese art employs that as well. So like from my perspective, it was just, I just say like surprising that what I assumed would be applied wasn't applied and something else was. Have you run into that as well?
If you look at the machines they have, like let's just say you're buying a train ticket, right? It's pretty overwhelming, the interface, right? And in the West, we say like, oh no, you can't give too many options, and because it's cognitive overload. So maybe you need progressive disclosure, right? Take them step by step, easier, right? But with Asian designs, it's like, no, they want to see everything up front so they know what they're getting themselves into, right? And it's like, lay out all the buttons. So if I was to ask a question of like, what's going to happen next, or if I want to trigger something, so I think that's kind of the different school of thoughts. But also like a more simpler example is like just colors, the green and red, right? Like red here, I'm based in Asia, so red here is really lucky. It's a great color. But on financial apps, red is your stock going down. Bit of motion, right? With that red. But here, folks use red all the time on call to actions, right? Is that a delete my email address forever? No.
So talking a little bit about entrepreneurship, you had mentioned that you're new to this whole space of being an entrepreneur, but you're not new to the creative process. So are you approaching business much like you approach design?
Absolutely. I'm one of the designers that love working on new ideas, and I found that's the type of entrepreneur I am as well. I really like to take an idea to market fast, and I've done this even when I say I should focus on one like thing. I just can't help but take it from like, it's an idea in my head, how do we get it on the internet as quick as possible? But yes, I do take my creative process in it with the stuff we mentioned, and and the research methodologies in terms of testing my product, speaking to users, measuring signals on like, is it good, is it bad? So I'm really new to this, and I want to kind of like highlight that just a little bit. So in 2020, I quit my executive design job, and I was like, what am I going to do with my time? So it was the pandemic. I was in Thailand, a country that I'm not from. And apart from traveling, I was learning a new skill. So I decided to do like video editing. And as soon as I could get out of Thailand a year later, so that was kind of my creator journey, or making content through video. Then when I moved back to Vietnam, where I'm based now, a couple of friends were like, hey, I've got this thing. Do you want to work on it? And I was like, okay, cool. I was taking a break. I was kind of burnt out from design industry, and kind of fell quickly into entrepreneurship. We started a bunch of things, including like an agency, a couple of SaaS products, and even went to an incubator. And that was just last year. But so I am new to this. I've had a few reps, but I'm kind of still like, I think I'm still at the baby steps of entrepreneurship.
Well, at least you're self-aware enough to recognize kind of what you don't know, and how are you solving those problems? Because what I found personally, initially, I thought I had to learn everything. When I went to business school in the pandemic, I was a tour guide in Japan. Industry ended, of course, for a while. And so figured I could up my business knowledge. And one of the things that kind of struck me early on was that you get a better ROI by investing in your strengths. Not to say that, there's a balance between being well-rounded and being excellent, but that was kind of a new thought for me, where maybe I could network for my weaknesses rather than be self-sufficient. How are you approaching that?
I want to zoom in on when you said, hey, when I started, I thought I needed to know everything. I'm personality-wise, I don't have a problem with I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I've always been like that. So I dove in head first, right? Don't know anything about starting an agency? Okay, cool. Don't know anything about raising money? Okay, cool, right? I've always said yes, as long as I'm curious, but I am trying to learn stuff that I think is important to the business. And how I do that is I basically just live and breathe it. So I think about it all day. I listen to podcasts. I consume as much information and speak to people that know about this stuff. Therefore, by association and by this immersive experience, kind of like learning a language, you just kind of get it. And then the final thing is that I like to do more than I like to consume, actually try the thing, because sometimes you don't know what problems you can solve unless you're working on the problem. That's the best way to learn, in my opinion. Of course, it's probably one of the slower ways to learn because you're not, you don't have hindsight, right? So, but I still enjoy it.
I think a lot of times we want to make as few mistakes as possible. And so there's a tendency to try to accumulate as much passive knowledge and preparation as possible before you begin, whatever the thing is, having a conversation in a foreign language, like you said, entering into a new endeavor. And yet you learn so much faster as you're getting bumps and bruises and making embarrassing mistakes and stuff. It just seems to be like part of the glue that keeps it all together.
Yeah, it's really fun. And I think like for those folks who enjoy entrepreneurship and do it for longer, you're always chasing that kind of learning and problem solving space, right? Like you're like, oh yeah, I've nailed it. Okay, I just move on to the next thing. Oh, I've nailed it. But the thing is, it never stops. And for the folks who like that chase, I think it's really suitable for them, right? I don't know if I like the chase forever, but right now it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's great. And speaking of like energy, seems like now's the time to be in Vietnam. It's really like growing very quickly. Where are you located? Is it like Saigon or Hanoi?
Yeah, I'm in Saigon. Yeah.
Are you originally from there, or is this a new move for you?
So my dad, both of my parents are from here, but I was born in the UK and grew up there. I came back when I was 26 in 2014. But I've been here, or at least I've been living abroad for the last 10 years, Vietnam being the longest. So 7 years on and off. But there's just something about this place that calls me to it. Maybe it's the startup scene, maybe it's people coming back and building interesting things, maybe it's the work-life balance, maybe it's just the weather. There's just something about this place that's very special. The city has a vibe that I can't get away from, and I'm basically here indefinitely, at least as a base, because I'm fully remote. But yeah, I really love this place. I can't speak about it enough. I mean, every person I speak to, I'm like, yeah, you should check out Vietnam. I mean, screw like Bali or Cabo or some of these other places that people go to work remote. It's just like, no, Vietnam.
Yeah, I loved it. I mentioned I led tours in Japan, but the company I worked for also asked me to do their tours in Vietnam and Burma on occasion. So I would go over there for a few months, and yeah, it's a really great place. And it seems like it's only been getting better year by year. So good choice. Do you see elements of design like what you're working on? Are you working on anything like locally there?
Yes and no. So we're in like idea phase, but I'm working with one person that basically runs a startup accelerator program, and then another partner, which is in the VC world, right? And we want to bring like an innovation process to small to medium businesses, right? Ones who might not had the tech background we all had, and might not think about how tech enablement or digital transformation, whatever you want to call it. But we don't just want to be another innovation hub or innovation school. We actually just really want to focus on what they care about, which is like, I want to either save money or grow revenue. So that's what our goal is. And however we do that through our processes and tech enablement, that's, they don't really care about it, right? As long as they're making more money or saving costs. So that's kind of our take on it, because venture capital in Vietnam for these type of businesses are non-existent. And it's really hard to find your 100xer in this region, not even just in Vietnam, but in this region, right? So there's a lot of money going around, but there's not that many great products, companies, and founders, right? So we want to help, the other 99% with this type of thing, experimentation mindset, design thinking mindset, then hopefully spin up like a PE firm around it and, help them, build a really profitable business. Because most of these businesses are family run, got a bit of heritage, a few generations, but, nobody wants to invest in them. Nobody wants to really help them. They're quite, I guess, against growth in some aspect, but because of the hand down, the biggest hand down of wealth, right, ever, that's going to occur in the next X amount of years. I think this is like the right time to start something like this, and businesses and resources for folks who really want it.
That's really surprising to hear you put it that way. Very, very creative. I've spoken with a few people in the acquisition entrepreneurship space. Have you heard by any chance of Search Funds?
Yep.
So they're talking about the silver tsunami, the same thing you mentioned, and you're coming at it in kind of there's a lot of overlap with what you described, but in a different way. So it's really interesting to see this kind of new model and the location you're in and taking note of your surroundings. Yeah, very fascinating. I think you're spoiled for choice as far as like where you want to go with that. But very, very interesting. So what, like for UX designers, and I imagine it really case by case, but broadly speaking, what's like one thing that the UX designer is getting wrong? We talked about the institutions, but have you noticed that kind of a trend?
So the one thing that UX designers are getting wrong, this could be controversial. So there's a lot of talk about how to be a good designer, you need great soft skills, right? You need to communicate, present, navigate politics, whatever it is, right? But there's not enough talk about being obsessed with the craft. Potentially, you might think that's like, oh, I thought it was a given. But actually, no, a lot of designers are not loving the design element, right? So like basically what they're paid to do and, to be obsessed with it. So it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, imagine hiring an engineer, but they're just okay coders, but they tell you their solution's the best. But when you look at the code, it's not great, right? There's a lot of refactoring that goes on. And they're not thinking about new ways to kind of write different tech stacks, different implementations, how scalable it is. And I think for a lot of designers, it's the same. They learn the basics and then they just go up in the ladder, right? Manage people, whatever, get better at soft skills, get better at presenting, right? So I think that conversation is a no-brainer in terms of like, yes, of course you need soft skills. All humans need soft skills, but there aren't enough designers building really opinionated things that they really love and super craft obsessed.
That's actually deceptively deep, I think, because that in some sense kind of mirrors a recent conversation I had with a client who I'm helping, and he's realizing that he's discovering kind of who he is and what he wants to do and wanting to double down on that. And I'm saying yes, because ironically, or maybe counterintuitively, when you become yourself, you become so much more relatable and so much more interesting. And it's this weird thing where if you leave yourself, it's all about kind of coming back to the unique contribution that you can make. And so, yes, if you're design obsessed or whatever, and you're authentic to yourself, I think you will have good design, or you will be approaching it. So what's who are some of your favorite designers?
Jason Fried. Actually, he's probably one of my... he's the favorite designer. He's not your typical designer. Most people haven't heard of him. Most people don't know what products he built. The reason why I like him, he's a really good writer. Jason Fried, or spell Fried. He's a really good writer. So he communicates his ideas in interesting ways, but succinct enough. He's been bootstrapped for 20 plus years. He's built products that are in the tens of millions of dollars. He still designs to this day. He runs his company in a way that's against everything that you've ever heard in like YC or venture capital or scaling big tech companies. It's completely the opposite. And and why he's successful is this point that you just made, which is like, if you're true to yourself, and if you're like, this is what I like to do, this is how I'm going to do things, right? And for him, it worked, right? Just so happened, he's multi-talented in a bunch of things, but he still loves product. And he's got one co-founder. So it's it's a designer and an engineer. He's my favorite designer. I just love reading his work. He's got different takes on what remote work means. And this was back, this was like 15 years ago when they released that book. How, people, when they say they're busy, that's actually really, really toxic for work. How you should approach work, how you should approach life. So for me, he's like this weird tech philosopher that also designs product. And that's kind of my interest as well. It's like, you don't have to just be one thing. You can be a bunch of different things, and the industry can say completely the opposite. But as long as like you have an interesting take and you're going to put your money where your mouth is, I think that's kind of what draws me into him.
Well, yeah. I think in order to be competitive or to get really good at something, you have to do it a lot, sometimes even when it's uncomfortable. And I think sometimes we want to be somewhere, or we want to be something, and we've not quite connected the path to get there. So by obsessing, you might discover that that's not your path. That's not where you're supposed to go. And the great thing about it is you could wind up somewhere much better. And so I think just starting and obsessing over it will lead you to where you are supposed to go. And either way, it's a win-win for you and for society, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to say to yourself, I need to obsess over making money, for example, right? You could just be like, I want to try make money, or I want to try start this side hustle. Like, I think the first step and the, oh, is this interesting or not? And then you answer that question for yourself by taking action, right? And then if you don't like it, that's fine, right? Like, so quick tangent here. I saw everybody start a productized design agency. So that's exactly what I did. I launched the website, got a client in 10 days and was like, sweet. All right, cool. Then I started doing the work. I was like, this sucks. This is the worst kind of work I want to do, right? But everybody was making money from it. Huge success. It seemed like a really kind of, I was trying to ride the wave of everybody else, but it just wasn't for me. That wasn't the model that I liked. So it's completely okay to just be like, it's fine, right? Like, really, most people fail not non-publicly anyway. They fail in private. So you don't really have much to lose. Even if you do fail in public, if you just don't care about the public perception, it's completely chill. Like, it's really, everything's usually in people's heads.
So I think we covered a pretty good overview of design and kind of your career, what you're doing now. Really fascinating. Thank you for sharing your insights. It's clear that you have a lot of knowledge to give. And where would you like to direct people if they want to follow you and what you're working on?
Absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search my name or /UX Chris Nguyen, Nguyen, or you can just go to uxplaybook.org and you can follow the links there and you'll find me everywhere.
Well, thanks for talking to us today, Chris, and look forward to seeing where you go next year.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, let's keep in touch.